Well, hey, you're watching What Was That About? Thank you for joining us for today's episode. My name is Moses Khan. I'm with Dr. Tony Soldano, lead pastor of All People's Church here in Brampton, Canada. How's it going?
It's going well. Yeah.
Well, listen, I'm happy. We're getting good weather. We're getting some sun.
It's getting better.
It's getting better, and it's been good. Today's episode is going to be fun.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah, so we did an episode a little while ago. We'll link it in the description on how much money is too much money, really in regards to church, mega churches, preachers, all sorts of that. And so if you haven't checked out that episode, check it out. We'll put the link in the description. But it was interesting to see the response we got.
Some people wrote us letters, man.
Yes, yes. So it was very interesting. Now, let me say this before, because what we want to do in this episode is we want to look at some of those comments and just give a response to some of those comments, and that'll be fun.
Yeah,
but before,
you know what? We're not afraid of the comments,
right? Yeah,
and we put ourselves out there. Let me just say, I thought our program was incredibly balanced.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yep.
And I think it looked at both sides, but there's some definite hostility towards churches and ministries having money, and some of the comments I thought were ugly. Some I thought were just plain ignorant, which you got to expect that online. But there was some legit stuff there that I thought, that I thought was, hey, that's a reasonable comment, and,
right?
Yeah.
Well, you could tell based on the differences of the comments that people have had many different experiences with churches, and then some people who haven't had any experience with churches, they're going to comment and they're going to leave interesting remarks there as well. And so what we tried to do in that video was to say, yes, okay, churches have made mistakes, and we see examples of that, and yet we see churches providing for communities,
right.
Supporting missions, feeding the poor, and the rest of it,
right.
Which we do here as well.
Right. Yeah, the one comment, who probably this guy doesn't even know us. I don't know if it's in your comments today.
Yeah, let me see. It's here. It says, All People's Church is not for all people.
Yes. ...
Money grabbers.
So this is case in point, the ignorant that know nothing about us, but you're brave because you never get to see us face to face. Now, here again, just in food alone in our food hub since COVID, and we carry that on, by the way, $2.5 million of free food given out every week.
Yeah.
We serve between 200 and 250 families that are coming through and have been coming through now since the beginning of COVID.
Yep.
And that's that was my point there. Because I do believe there is a too much is too much. And, somebody else talked about the $5,000 sneakers. And by the way, I called that out.
Right.
You heard me call that out on a Sunday and online. I never understood that. I never agreed with that. I don't think that's right. But here's what I'm saying is, a lot of these reports are not balanced. A lot of them are not truthful. They're not investigated. Comments like this, and then that just fires up the mob mentality. Yeah, and just people just go along with it, right?
Yeah, I'm even curious to know how many people just looked at the title. Is too much money?
Sure.
Is how much is too much?
Right.
And just commented based on that without actually, being a part of the conversation that we had.
And then Pastor Moses, they don't understand as well, even for ourselves. I mean, we are also employers. We employ people.
Right.
So even in that case and point, you have a responsibility. Like what can be done in our world without money? I mean, the gospel can't be preached without funds and without money.
Right.
I guess when it hits that extreme, extravagant, over the top, lifestyle, which I agree with. I agree. I think it can be over the top, and I thought that's where we were very balanced.
Yeah. So let's go through some of these.
Sure.
Let's go through some of these comments. So we already covered the $5,000 sneakers.
Right.
What's interesting is that lady had ended that comment off with "take care of our children." So clearly, there's this expectation that you're going to take care of the community, the children. One person comments and says that we should just give it all to the community. That if you think about the money that could be given to the community, just imagine how much good could be done with that.
I disagree. There's look at the amount of money that the government gives to the community in various programs. There's all kinds of fraud. There's all kinds of greed. There's all kinds of overhead that it goes to. So the idea is nice, but the reality is, does the money always get to the people that truly need it? I know in our ministry we spend a lot of money on young people, on children. They are important to us. And so, I agree. I think children are under attack, and they need to be protected. Absolutely. And in our next program, we're going to deal with that.
Yeah. Now, we had asked the question, can pastors make too much money? Like, should there be a cap?
Well, I think here again, we talked about, CEOs, the size of an organization, the credential. Of an individual that comes with the role. We want to cap ministry leaders, but no one ever talks about capping, CEOs or anything like that. Here again, is there a point where too much is too much? I probably. Now, can I give you that number? No, there's a lot of mitigating circumstances. But, Pastor Moses, for me, it's this underlying hostility. I would even just say even sometimes a downright hatred, particularly for pastors, Christianity. You could say, well, isn't that something of your own making? There's some truth to that. That clearly some people have, abused, whether it's power and money, and then everybody gets painted that way.
Yeah.
But isn't it that way in government? Isn't it that way in entertainment and whatever? But nobody seems to resent them for making money. It's only when pastors and Christian leaders make money then this resentment comes out, right?
What are your thoughts on this? I think churches should be taxed.
Well, I disagree. I disagree. It has been part of the landscape of our country. But here again, why is that comment being made? Because they don't understand or see the value that we provide, but they don't see the counseling, the mentoring, the leadership, the development, the fact that we're also an employer. Like this is my point. You don't really take the time to look at what value we add to the community, the mental health side of things, where we benefit people, benefit the community. And so why shouldn't there be a relief to those that are, to those that are providing such services? But you see, because we don't boast about it, because we're not out there saying, here's what we do every day, here's what we do every weekend, the hospital visits, the funerals, walking people through crushing times of their lives, right? All they just see is like the comment, they're just money grabbers, they're hoarders, and they're buying $5,000 running shoes. By the way, I've never spent $5,000 on a suit, never mind a pair of shoes. But so there are these other things that we add to the community, but because we're not there bragging about it, it's not known. It's not known,
right? So we talked a little bit about mega churches in our last episode. And so here's a question, or here's a statement that somebody had made. It was an interesting, statement. Most mega churches are teaching false doctrines and have false teachers.
Well, okay, where do you get the statistic on that?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like here again, they're out there. They they're trying to preach the gospel, and I'm not here to defend them. I agree in some cases that they have compromised. They have gone off the rails. To say most mega churches, I mean, what does that mean?
Right.
And how do you measure that? Some of them have, and some of them should be called on it. I will say this, that there are ministries that are criticized, but because of what they're trying to convey or present the gospel, what they are preaching online is sometimes very different than what they preach in-house. In other words, the online content is almost to draw people in. And then when people begin to understand and they're part of the church family, that, the deeper things of God are being preached. So that could be a strategy that they're employing. But of course, what people are seeing online, and by the way, some things, Pastor Moses, you and I have experienced this, where a comment can be taken completely out of context.
Yeah.
And people that are just waiting to hear something just run off with it.
Yeah.
And it's not in content, it's not in context, and so it's easy to attack them. If they're preaching a false gospel, they need to be called out 100%.
Right.
If it's an interpretation, then that's very, very different.
Yeah.
When we get into things like eschatology, end times, wow, there's a lot of different beliefs and interpretation.
Yeah.
So if I don't believe what you believe, then that makes me a false teacher? No. That, I think there are some fundamental things we all have to agree on because it's there in Scripture. And then there's some, there's some things that can be taken, in different ways, right?
Right. Yeah.
Pre-trib, post-trib, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I wonder if maybe it's related to this idea that if churches get really big, that then somewhere they have compromised. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Like, can you get to that level, that degree, and remain faithful to the word, remain faithful to the ministry?
I believe you can.
Yeah.
I believe you can. I think it's a heart condition, and I believe you can have those resources and power and influence and remain faithful to God. It's not easy.
Right.
I think the temptations are greater, and I think the accountability needs to be greater. But I know a lot of, large ministry mega churches that are, absolutely on the plumb line of God, no question.
Yeah. It's very interesting, like how much of, how many blanket statements people tend to make. The devil is in the heart of a lot of churches these days, and it needs to be called out. They're leading people astray. The law of attraction, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Pastor, is not biblical, and yet that's what a lot of pastors are teaching.
Yes, the law of attraction, yeah. And then speaking, manifestation, speaking things into the universe. Absolutely. Those things, the law of attraction actually falls under leadership. So there are aspects of leadership that, are going to work. At the end of the day, people are attracted to churches for one reason or another, whether it's a dynamic speaker, a personality, whether it's community. Something ultimately attracts you, right? And let's be honest, it's not always Jesus or the gospel. That's not the first reason that people come.
Yeah.
Sometimes people come out of, I need community, I'm lonely, I've gone through a difficult time in my life. Does that mean we reject them at the door because maybe they're infantile in their walk and they don't understand? No, it's hey, listen, whatever has attracted you here, awesome. People were attracted to Jesus, by the way. But at the end of the day, I believe if we're preaching the gospel and we're preaching the truth, that's what ultimately matters. Now, to me, it's not so much that they are attracted. Is that's what keeping them? Are you then entertaining them? Do you have to keep attracting them, or somewhere do they fall in love with Jesus? And you talk a lot about that, about abiding.
Right. Yeah, and I know there was this other big church that kind of got into some hot water because they had put on an Easter production specifically to, maybe we got to do an episode on this, specifically to attract people for at least that Easter weekend. And so they had done a production that was very different, not like the script that you would normally choose. And so they went very creative on their script. And then they got into some hot water where people were saying, what the heck is this? And so they had to come out and make statements. And this is why we did this. This is what's happening here. And so, at the end of the day, it's, you got to ask the question, is this what's going to keep them? Or is this a way for them to enter into maybe the doors of the church and then they can get into some greater depth?
That comment, I really don't understand that comment because, think about it. A lot of what we do is based on personal choice and style, right?
Yeah.
Particularly on the side of worship, but we could also even say it about communication, whether people want more of a seeker-friendly message or they want more of a preacher's message. And so let's be honest, you are going to go to a place that you feel is attracting you,
right.
Whether you want to believe that or not.
Yeah.
That's the truth. And then we say things like, well, I feel comfortable here, and then this is where I believe I should be. Well, that all starts by attraction, and everything we do, by the way, that's part of that's part of the world. Any store you go to, any mall you go to, there's something that attracts you there. So in and of itself, it's not evil. At the end of the day, this church responded, what is the motivation of the heart?
Right.
Because the motivation could be right, but outwardly they could be judged and said, well, you just missed the mark. But if they're legit in the integrity of their heart, that's what God looks at.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're just over time. There was another comment, and I wanted to save this one for last, and they had asked the question, well, what was the point of this video? Where's the value?
Right.
And so to save that person, some time, why don't we tell them what the value of the point of this video?
And I'd like you to make a comment on this as well. But we try to the best of our ability not to hide from sensitive subjects and hot topics. And what I like about our church is, do we receive funds? Yes, we do. But we are also a very generous church. We talk about this a lot. We honor people. Yeah. We're very generous. We're very giving. We try to give away at least 10% of our income to missions. And so the point of this was that, these mega churches in particular are always under attack. And is it always fair? Is it legitimate? Because there are people, by the way, and shame on you, that are on YouTube and making money. What do? You make money off of attacking mega churches. And what do you do with that money? Why is it the money you make from YouTube okay? And all you are is critics. You're critics. You're not in that ministry. You haven't given. You haven't done the right thing. You haven't sacrificed or anything. But you get to sit in probably your little basement with your cameras and your lights. You get to criticize, and YouTube sends you a check, and you make money. And what do you do with that money? Like, where's your judgment? You know what I mean? To me, that is the epitome of hypocrisy right now. So that's the point of it.
Well said. Well said. I don't even know if I need to add to
that. Oh, come on,
add
something.
That was good. That was very good. Listen, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And that's why we do it. We do it to bring clarity. We do it because at the end of the day, conversations are important. And we want to be logical, we want to be reasonable, and we want to honor God. All those things. And so we shouldn't just come to conclusions and stick there without thinking through some of these things. And so hopefully these conversations have shed some light into your understanding about money in the church. And if there's other things you want us to tackle, let us know in the comments section below. And maybe you had more questions about this episode, leave that in the comments. Let us know. We'll talk about it in the upcoming episodes. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. If you haven't liked our page, like our page. Share this episode with a couple people you know. We appreciate you spreading the word on this podcast. Thank you, Pastor, for this conversation. God bless you. We will see you in the next episode. Yeah, it was good.